I was surprised at the response. I didn't expect anybody to like the video processing drama hangovers, but I was surprised at the reaction of people. Are you crazy? Is everything okay? What? So I've shared the way I emotionally process things. I don't normally share that online because I don't have these things online. But I'm not a person that just feels righteous and says something about someone else's life. It's not that simple. You know, I watch those drama videos and I see emotions coming out and things that I like to conduct a particular way. Now I believe in conducting myself freestyle or whatever and putting it out there, but part of the reason I believe that is because then I look at it and in my post-mortem of such events, I think it through. There's a tremendous weight to doing that. Now, when you don't process the negative results inside yourself of walking through drama, you poison yourself. And you could see this. When you have people that pwn for years, you can see how they're slowly poisoning themselves. And they either somehow reject that, consciously or otherwise, or they get poisoned. At least I can see that. So I shared how I process the internal toxins of letting this drama stuff that's flicking all over me all the time and I'm ignoring and keeping on the outside of a barrier. I let it in here where my real thinking goes, where I think about real important things, and I'm thinking about this because it's a person's baby's life, for example, which is important. There's a result. You have to clean all that stuff up, or else there's little bits, you know, you think, oh, I just bullshit, now that's over with, and you throw out this big thing you made. Well, what about all these nuts and bolts and flecks that dropped off around? So I process those things consciously, and I feel like explaining my video so you can understand more about that process, whether it be about me, about everybody, about one way to process things that most people just let wander around unless they're unconscious. Really, really difficult. Okay, I have like a spiritual, my spirit body, and beginning of the video freaks some people out. But you know, I would have expected people know. But then again, I think few, one or two, to be serious, saw that it was like, oh, something emotionally heavy is happening. That's what he's talking about. But with the title, yeah, I was talking about the videos, so maybe people just didn't see the context. How could you get this emotional about YouTube? We come on here to be cathartic and dump our shit from the rest of our life. Well, I try not to dump shit, I try to process it. So, yeah, I mean, I could blow it off. I talk about that later, and I could have digested as well, which is not blowing it off. But there's an abandoned child to me that's really serious. So I took that on as a real thing, as a real person's in the real world. Boom, a whole person, just like people I know. And I know I don't have to do that. I can't possibly do it for every individual in the world, even if I wanted to. But when I do it, it's real. You see, I mean, the main problem with videos like that is for when you... So of course I mean a dramatic video, right? I do a video like that where I'm getting somebody's personal life. Basically, you do something like that, you have to do it from a place of understanding, even love, even some would call it. So my point is, when you are going to criticize someone like that, you have to do it from a place of understanding. It's not clear, I guess that's confusing, or you have to do it from a place of understanding. Doesn't mean you have to be understanding to those kind of people, because there's another kind of activity you do with those people, which is just fight and defend yourself. You know, somebody aggressive is coming at you. Yeah, if I'm going to criticize them, you shouldn't be aggressive. It will be from a point of understanding, like, why are they aggressive in the first place? Did I just run over their cat? You know, it's going to be important if I say, hey, dude, you should calm down. And then I'll have to put some understanding in on it. On the other hand, I might not have a chance to do that. He's coming and attacking me, and I will just fight. And that will not require as much understanding. But when people criticize and pretend it's a fight like it doesn't take understanding, well, that's why it's so sick on the internet. It's really hard. You guys wouldn't do that. Most people won't understand.
Okay, this part is where I'm basically empiro language of how could you not see this message. I'm accusing in advance. I'm accusing those that don't understand what this video is about of not processing their emotions on the internet, essentially, because they only understand dumping, whether they do it or not. That's what they understand. But you have to get into the mind frame, the shape frame of the person that has produced the angry emotions. I don't take that lightly. See, and I don't take it lightly, but on the other hand, people just took it like it was such a big deal. But I mean, to me, it reminds me a little bit of like in the old days when people thought that, you know, Leave It to Beaver's mom and was in real life the same, you know, like the actress was like that. You know, you just couldn't separate fact from fiction. It's really funny. You could see interviews and lots of examples of that, and it still happens today. The kids have trouble thinking that. And it's like, this is real. I let myself show you how I felt processing how ugly it is. But you know, it's just a little window on my life. Rest assured, okay, did not impact my life in general. I just let myself feel it, so I process it, because that's what you got to do to process it. And I wonder, do you guys not do that, or do you not recognize the way I process the emotions? Is there something wrong with me that I feel the emotion so intense, even if it's a little thing that I can tune into it, magnify it up? See, to me, I don't see that I made it too intense, because that would be letting it affect my behavior or my driving or something. But just to feel it, when I decide, I put myself a time, okay, I'm going to work through the emotional part of this. The intellectual part can run along on its own, but do the emotional processing. And I talk a little bit coming up about the spirit body idea, which is basically, you know, you have an imaginary body. You can lie flat on a bed and imagine yourself moving your arm up to your nose and touching your nose with your finger. Okay, that's your imaginary body. It's different than when you imagine the third person figure. Now, I don't really think you can imagine two of these spirit bodies. Usually this spirit body, why am I calling it spirit body? Because I love that you can't get a materialistic version of spirit. This is my mental imaginary body that usually is trying to, you don't get this, huh? It's usually trying to imagine itself in the position that my brain thinks my real body is in, except for when I'm dreaming or imagining or meditating and imagining walking through the path. But in those situations, you know, it'll feel more like you're walking in a path than that you're lying down thinking about it when you get into it enough. And if you ask yourself, wait, what? Am I really on a path? Well, yeah, you can check your physical sensors of your body and find an online thing. And that'll dim the whole illusion. And the whole point is you have to go back and forth to just get this one. And there's no doubt that a lot of emotions are projected into this imaginary body that we can feel. Okay, in this area, you get a lot of stress, okay? And it can go various places from there. Is it really in your chest? No, it's in your mind, but your mind is the thing that is in possession of this imaginary, you know, figure, which is where you imagine your body to be. Okay, and again, the point, obviously, in evolution, that imagining where your body to be when you're awake, it tries to imagine where you really are. But not always, because when you're sleeping and stuff, and of course when you're awake, you can still move this imaginary body, and then feel the imaginary sensations that can do. You can hold your you clap your hands imaginarily, you feel an imaginary clap. Oh, you don't? Well, if it's just me that feels or can feel these things so intense, that would be great news. You know, maybe I'm one of these people with this flood of intense emotion. And I've managed to function with it because it's so great. Because then I pity if people can't just say, okay, here's the emotional magnifying glass. What did I just go through? I just spent a couple hours watching videos, you know, an hour making some, and let's see what we got here. And I could zoom down in there and I go, oh, okay. And, oh yeah, I yelled at that. Oh my God, look, I got really upset. Oh, I was threatening and bravado. Oh, that's okay. Smooth it all out. As I pointed out, one thing you could do if you don't want to use your rationality to process this, you know, you just breathe and stuff. I don't know why it got hooked up this way, but when you feel the stress down here, it's located in your imaginary body, right where in your physical body you have lungs and heart, which if you breathe and slow, you know, you slow the pace of your heart, and then it'll relax you. It removes those, so the brain is projecting those feelings there and allowing you to use your body to affect them, giving you a physical ability to affect your emotions. So you don't have to feel like you don't have control of them. And then the other thing, though, is as you do that, you can either sort the things out or basically you can digest them. And it's just a metaphor, but that's just letting them soak in on their own and just handling them and kind of letting, you know, the chemical properties fall where they are. No purification of the toxins, just let your digestive system handle the toxins. Now in your real life, say you have a permanent long-term struggle with a family member. You might just have to digest it. There will be no really settling down. It'll be like, well, until the day I die, I'm offended or whatever. But this is, after all, just an internet thing. This is an intellectual example. And basically, I would advise not just digesting that stuff. If I had planned to just digest it, I wouldn't have done it at all. I don't need the nitrates of that in my digestion. So I just take it in here where it causes the low-grade stress, and I amplify that until I can feel it normalized as if it is the one unit of my moment. And then I deal with it, and then I magnify back out, and as a result, I have a very fine resolution of detail when I'm sorting emotions out. I was just showing you the emotional. Well, I was showing the experience. I saved up this experience. I said, I know this angst, and geez, I'm going to have to process it. And I thought about, well, I should just sit and think about it for, 5 minutes, or I could have just spread it out, or any million things of ways to spend the time on this. But you have to let it build up. It's no good just to have a low-grade background stress, and that's just fear. You have to let it build until until it actually has that effect, and then the lung and relaxation kind of stuff works. Showed you that. This is, as I said, it has been a very, I allowed it to be a powerful experience. I don't think I've had such a experience exactly where I revealed it, but in this case I realized that this residual, this hangover of it would just sit there unless I expressed it in the domain where it was pertinent. At least that's what I think. Because I've done some breathing and calming, aligning of this feeling in here, It's really in your brain, but it feels like it's there, so you just go with that. And one reason I think it feels in here is because you can control it with breathing. You can relax it, and your heart also slows down as a result. And so those are parts of your body right there. So your brain might as well put the emotions down there that are relevant. So right there I was talking about sort of breathlessly why the brain probably puts the emotions down there. Because your lungs and your heart react to stressful situations in real time almost, but at least very quickly. They ramp up almost in real time. And it might take longer to calm down, but they're basically that ever-present moment, right? Those organs. So the brain puts the feelings down there, makes you think about those, and you, oh my God, I'm breathing. Okay, first slow that down. Just worry about your breathing. Okay, now I can worry about what was making me worried. Well, you actually exhaled stress at that point. You collected the stress, boom, into a focus. You exhale it, and this is how the brain works. The brain put the feeling there, it's reacting, it's like, okay, you've calmed down your feeling, you've taken, because you can't really calm down without checking in your surroundings and various things that your brain and your body need to have happen when you're in a stressed situation. It's weird because we're talking emotional stress, but it's still there. It's easier to ignore because it's just in my mind. Well, no, it's in your body. Your heart is. Stress kills, man. But not if you deal with it. If your stress is because you're doing a workout and you know how not to strain your joints and stuff, it just make you stronger. Now, I was a little breathless because I'm not an actor. If I was an actor, then I would have used all the the cartoon signifier behaviors that you've all been trained on TV and television and stage. Okay. I was actually just feeling that. I was just feeling like, because it sucks. There's a kid, I don't even want to go through it again. Okay. Stuff really sucks if you think of it as clearly as I do. Which I'm not saying you should. I'm saying in this case, I did think of it clearly, so you heard that I thought it would. I didn't make those videos out of a pretend thing. That's you might not know how it's feeling in this particular case, but you know in some cases you do get invested. So one of the hardest mind frames, cognitive tendencies that's hard to put yourself into. I do know that I said that you had to say criticisms from point of understanding, and that's what I'm about to get into. How you understand them. I'm putting it in terms of the frames the person has, the shape, their mind as a shape. I tend to think of ideas as chemicals, and so philosophies are just a really complex chemical set, for example. So it's the shape of their mind, doesn't really, it's just a metaphor, but you have to get into that shape. So like if somebody, I think I used it earlier, if you find out, ooh, he's mad because I just ran over his pet, you're gonna have to think, well, how does that what's the shape of my mind when my pet goes over? Oh, and his daughter watched it. Ooh, how would that affect, and you get this idea of a model, and you can feel that model. It's a feeling model. When you get it, you could go, oh my God, I'm really sorry, what can I do about this? And you think real hard. Is a narcissistic one, because the narcissist is trapped. They're how likely are they to seek help? They don't trust other people. As I've been pointing out, I see most symptoms from all of these tendencies are things that I can remember experiencing. And I remember a lot of those kinds of experiences. It's really why I'm a philosopher, is my ability to remember those kinds of things. I remember ethical dilemmas in my life that I perceived as such from 5-6 years old. Okay. Symptom, and it's my memory of these symptoms that allows me to say, okay, I remember feeling this way, and I remember at a different time feeling that way, and I remember at a different time feeling this way, and then all of these ways, and I'll put them all together, and I'll try to imagine feeling them all at once, and I'll imagine them in the situation, and then if I can see myself imagining that behavior, that I know I have it right, and that's painful. It's like doing a virtual reality in just a horrible, like a video game, where you're just, which most video games are, where you just have to be a horrible person. I mean, that's not the hard part, because of course, it's not like I forget who I really am in this exercise. But the hard part is that you see where they're coming from, so you really feel like that, and then just feeling that way for a moment, it's just the intensity. It's like before you can go, wait, I'm just a thought experiment. You're like having a feeling of what it's like, and then it feels terrible. Okay, now what I realize might not be clear is why would you want to feel horrible? Well, because you have to have this position of understanding to really criticize well. You know, it's not just a moral thing like you owe it to. No. It's because your criticisms become more apt. They focus in. You don't go, you fat fuck. Because that's pointless. It's a waste of time. You don't need to see someone's face in order to engage with them, because that's not what you're engaging. You're engaging with ideas. Right? And from this position of understanding, you have much more apt criticisms, because you end up criticizing the things you would feel bad for if you were them. Okay? When you come from this position of understanding, you end up criticizing them for things that you would feel bad if you did. And if you're really good at it, you would take their philosophy and everything. But there's there's all kinds of comparisons, and ultimately I'm not going to take their belief that stealing is okay. No, I'm going to judge how they feel that stealing is okay. It's still going to come out measured as a disgusting feeling. Feeling that is going to be like a toxin to me. And then the size of that toxin saying, look, that's the toxic idea. The ones that made me feel toxic to put myself in that position. And so if you're criticizing people's appearances, then, so like if you were born looking another way, that would make you feel bad. I don't think so. You must have gotten confused, you see. And this avoids that kind of thing. See, all these drama videos people say, and they do, people like John et al. Don't acknowledge or see the difference. They don't see how, look, I don't resort to, and you're that, and you're that, right? I don't need to. And my interpretation is that that's how it feels for those people, but maybe it's unconscious. You might be surprised how often it's conscious, but that's just the part they don't speak about, and they hold it back, and they have an excuse of, well, everybody feels that way, but I'm doing the right thing. And they're using their inhibitions to hold back their feelings from their actions. People don't really understand this kind of feeling, and if they did, they'd understand why I say some of the things I say that sound weird, like, thinking from this place of compassion, love, and understanding doesn't mean sympathetic, for example. Doesn't mean sympathetic. It could be the opposite of that, because you do that, and and the reason you're doing the strong parts that are why it's worth it is you see a path, and doing this you get probably an illusion. It is an illusion in a sense, but it's true as well somehow that everybody has a path to go beyond the pitiful. Everybody has a path and the ability to go on that path. Okay. When you feel this way, just like this, it's a clenching in your chest kind of thing. It's not even that. You gotta know what I'm talking about. You can just bury it. You can just bury it into your stomach and digest it. But that's